Dziękuję bardzo. To był bardzo dobry przykład dwustronnej współpracy między nami. Teraz jesteśmy otwarci do waszych pytań. Jeżeli oni są. Albo oczywiście komentarze. Michael,
I'd like to ask Leszek Wieczech in the audience here, representing Polska Organizacja Przemysłu i Handlu Naftowego, to say a few words about this incredible growth in British exports of crude oil to Poland, which, as Martin said, had quite significance on the trade figures.
Dzień dobry Państwu. Chciałem rzeczywiście tutaj przedstawić kilka danych dotyczących sektora paliwowego. Również, żeby nie było przekłamań, to sięgnę tu okulary i przytoczę dokładne dane. Mianowicie w zeszłym roku, czyli roku 2011, Polska importowała z Wielkiej Brytanii 477 tysięcy ton ropy naftowej i było to prawie 2%, a konkretnie 1,9% dostaw ropy naftowej do polskich rafinerii. Czyli z tych, wiadomo, że większość ropy w Polsce zdecydowanie pochodzi z dostaw rosyjskich, ale wśród tych pozostałych drobnych Norwegia i Wielka Brytania oczywiście odgrywają dużą rolę. Jeżeli chodzi o pokazane tutaj dane wartościowe, sądzimy, że w tej kategorii petroleum products, czy produkty naftowe, są sklasyfikowane nie tylko dostawy ropy naftowej, ale na przykład, sądzę, gotowych smarów. Co ciekawe, mowa była o eksporcie z Wielkiej Brytanii do Polski, ale my również eksportujemy produkty naftowe do Wielkiej Brytanii. Oczywiście nie jest to ropa naftowa, ale są to przetworzone paliwa. I o ile w przypadku oleju napędowego jest to drobna wartość, bo to jest około 2 promili produkcji polskiej rafinerii, o tyle w przypadku benzyny to już jest 4% produkcji polskiej rafinerii. Czyli można powiedzieć, że niewykluczone, że samochód królowej Wielkiej Brytanii jest napędzany polską benzyną. Także tyle z mojej strony. Dziękuję.
Czy mamy więcej pytań albo komentarzy? Jeżeli nie, to proszę bardzo.
Dziękuję, Anna Cieślak, ja jestem dziennikarzem Rzeczpospolitej i chciałam zadać takie podstawowe dosyć pytanie. Dlaczego Panu zdaniem ten eksport z Wielkiej Brytanii do Polski nie rośnie tak szybko jak eksport z Polski do Wielkiej Brytanii? Skąd ten narastający deficyt w naszej wymianie handlowej? Bo jak sobie potrafię wyobrazić, to polski eksport rośnie, ponieważ my jesteśmy konkurencyjni w tanich produktach i tam jest dużo zapotrzebowania. A czego potrzeba tutaj w Polsce, żeby brytyjski eksport się rozwinął?
If I may get off you my views, I think there's two ways of answering this. The first way is to look at long-term strategic trends, and in that category, I think there's 3 aspects. Number 1 is a factor of history, which we can see with UK exports to countries such as Australia and to Ireland, with very strong historical links, which means that those trade links are already established and ingrained, and dominates and keeps a lot of the UK focus and attention. So I think that's the first point. The second point, I think, is the growing Polish population in the UK. So we have many estimates of 750,000 Poles or thereabouts living in the UK. That's clearly going to give a pull factor from Poland into the UK. And third, I would raise Poland's position on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business list, which makes it perhaps a little more difficult for UK business to penetrate into Poland, as opposed to those markets where the UK does have those strong historical links. So at 62nd position on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business list, I think that provides an additional challenge for UK exporters compared to other markets where they are naturally focused. So I think those are three longer-term strategic aspects which will partly explain this. The other way of answering this is in the shorter term and more tactically. And on that, I think we would point to the cost advantage that the Polish economy has. So at 60% of the European Union GDP per capita, clearly Poland has a wage and a cost advantage. And certainly as far as 2011 was concerned, then sterling has been far stronger against the zloty than it has been for some time, which speaks to the difficulties that UK exporters may face when the zloty is at 5.2 against sterling, when not so long ago it was down about 4.5. So making UK goods a little more uncompetitive in the Polish market. So strategically, there's some large factors at play. Tactically, I think there's a couple of things in the short term that we could possibly point to as well.
I would just like to add to that. I agree with what Alan has just said. There is a reality in trade structures that the UK is much more global, and so far Poland has been much more regional. Therefore, what we're trying to do when convincing British exporters is not necessarily which is the most attractive market in Europe, because clearly Poland is very high on that list, but actually with many British companies you're competing against, well, is it more interesting to export to Poland or to China, which makes our task harder. But as I said earlier on, yes, it's a challenge, our current position, but there is also a tremendous opportunity here. And I think there is a growing recognition that along with the emerging markets of Brazil, China, India, countries like this, that Poland and the Central European region is a tremendous emerging opportunity too. So while in the short term our task is hard, I am very much an optimist about the prospects.
Dzień dobry, Jan Zborowski z Austerlii. Chciałbym się dopytać, w rozmowach z partnerami biznesowymi, brytyjskimi firmami, jakich powinniśmy my, polskie przedsiębiorstwa, używać argumentów, które najbardziej będą przekonujące dla tych firm, żeby właśnie nawiązać współpracę z polskim biznesem.
Well, I think the medium to long-term economic prospects of Poland remain exceptionally strong in the context of Europe, and does place Poland as the leading emerging market within Europe. So when you see an economy which has not been into recession through the recent crisis, and with future growth prospects as we look at from either from a trade viewpoint or that's also mirrored from a GDP growth viewpoint, the Polish economy is going to continue to grow far faster than the rest of the European Union. So that growth story is something that the UK needs to look at as a destination for exports or for investment, and also to continue to leverage the opportunities that the market brings from an import viewpoint, and to look at the cost advantages that Poland has. So I think those are the hard economic arguments. I think on the softer side, you then point to the fact that the market is only 2 hours flight away from the UK. There's little, there's no time zone difference. Our countries culturally are coming far closer together as Poles move to the UK, and English language is far more widely used within the Polish economy, and that's something I think that we can talk up significantly in terms of the quality of English education and the quality of the workforce coming out of the Polish education system. So I think there's a number of factors, both economically and culturally, that we should be pointing to that confirms that the two countries should continue to be very strong trading partners as well as strong partners inside the European Union.
I think there's a great opportunity as well to promote the proximity of the two markets. There's a number of people in this room today who can support that. I remember when Glaxo was acquiring Polfa Poznan in those days. This was difficult. What you've turned that factory into and turned the whole concern into is absolutely superb. I also remember living in Krakow as Tesco was engaging in Krakow, and the CEO then had a little turboprop flight plane which he kept in Krakow trying to get around the country. It's now a lot easier to get around the country. There's also people in this room today who have 4,000 lorries belting around Central and Eastern Europe and have lorries in the UK every week, travelling frequently to this part of the world. Those lorries can do chilled distribution to most of the large cities on a daily basis in this country. So it's a much nicer, more proximate proposition to come and do business in this country than it was. And I think the slide which Alan showed, which is 2016, 110% growth, this is a market that one really, really has to treat very seriously. Michael, have you got a...
I was going to say, in terms of what we're doing practically to address the issue, that much of it is about perceptions, that many British companies that are doing good business with Germany, with Spain, with France, with Scandinavia, haven't yet looked at the Polish market, and this really is our target group. Many of these people still think that Poland's a bit of a post-communist backwater, a bit grey, a bit poor. So we need to change that perception. So what we do as a chamber, and I'm so delighted to hear from the ambassador, that working together with banks, with lawyers, with accountants, we go to the UK. We're going at the end of this month to Scotland, to Edinburgh and to Glasgow with our partner here, Raben Group, to talk about the logistics of getting your exports to Poland. We're also talking with banks, with the lawyers, to make sure that we can tell this story directly to British exporters, to British potential investors, and to tell them the news face to face, rather than just expecting them to pick it up from the newspapers from the internet.
And one last point, I think, and it is very important for Poland too. What we're trying to sell here is not entirely just Poland, but a whole region. This is a really attractive region. The advantage for Poland is obvious. It is by far the biggest and most attractive country in that region. So the more we can promote emerging Europe as an opportunity, this is far more attractive than any one country, but given that already we're talking about Poland being half of the business, the more we market emerging Europe, the more we can improve the bilateral trade relationship between the UK and Poland too. Are there any last questions? If not, I'd like to be very British. We said we would close at 11:30 and we will achieve that. I don't think I need to sum up this meeting very much, other than to say that we are proud of the bilateral trade relationship between Britain and Poland. We are slightly less proud of the scale of the trade deficit, but I hope, as you've seen today, that you have got the message loud and clear. First of all, that Britain is already active in Poland, but in concert with supporters of fellow Premier League teams in the UK, my ambition is to get us much closer to the top, and we will be working flat out during the coming year to achieve that. Dziękuję bardzo za uwagę i za obecność. Do widzenia i do zobaczenia. Dziękuję.